All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Ageless Movement podcast. We have a special one today. Oh, by the way, this is the lovely Sang Ponyak, and I am
Scott Loman.
All right, and we bring you the Ageless Movement podcast weekly. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. We're trying to build this channel up for a wider audience. We're passionate about teaching and health and wellness and fitness. As we age, exactly. So, we have a great topic today. Sang, what's the topic for today? It's one of my favorite right now.
Can you tell? It's returning to the gym during a pandemic.
Yes. Now, I gotta say, I had a brief hiatus of returning to the gym. It was about a 2-month stretch. I guess it was, June and July? Something like that. I think it was June and July. And I gotta say, it was very successful. I didn't feel like I was in a situation where I was at complete risk of contracting the coronavirus. In fact, I felt safer in the gym than I do, grocery shopping, which we have to do a lot. Not only for ourselves, but for my pops.
So my experience is actually slightly different. Basically, from when we went into shelter, it's been all about how are we going to open up a gym in this current climate. So I've actually spent a lot of time listening to other fitness professionals across the world, trying to explain how they open up safely for their clients. So I think my perspective is a little different, besides the fact that I work out at home or at our work, so I don't feel as exposed. And I actually gave up my gym membership to 24-hour because it did not sound like a good place.
Okay, so that's a bit of nuance. So,
okay. And
I just want to cover that because I have to honestly say, I wasn't too happy with 24 either in terms of how they've dealt with the pandemic. And we can get into I'm sure we're going to get into that later, but I just want to point that out, that not all gyms had the same exact policy in terms of what they were doing when they were opening. And there were certain things that were happening at 24 that I didn't feel comfortable with. And there were a lot of good things happening at Powerhouse Gym, which I was comfortable with. And this is the funny thing about a pandemic, It's always surprising who seems to be more equipped and who seems to be less equipped to deal with these things. And I'm very happily surprised that Powerhouse Gym in Redwood City has done an excellent job just with the whole managing the pandemic.
Well, but that's a whole a testament to what the boutique type gyms can do for their clients, because it's a much smaller scale. They're usually smaller business owners, and luckily the majority of the ones that we know are truly interested in maintaining health and making sure that the gym is a clean and a safe place for people. So, to me, it's always been worth it to kind of go away from the big box gym in order to work out. The only reason why I have a big box gym had membership was because when I travel, it was a little difficult finding gyms in various states. So, now I've pretty much have decided I'm either going to do a hotel workout or check out a local gym that I know. Luckily, at this point in time, I'm probably pretty good at knowing who's a good gym owner across the United States. So,
well, that's what's fascinating. If you go pre-pandemic, 24 is hard to beat. And the reason why I say that is they've got pretty good quality gyms everywhere in the country. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in Texas as well as California, and they clearly have more gyms than anyone else. And it's just nice to be able, even when we go to the Rose Bowl, right, to watch Stanford play, it was great because there was gyms literally everywhere in LA of 24-hour fitness. So I never felt like I had to miss a workout. Same thing in Texas. They had some really nice 24s in Texas.
Yeah, and I was actually looking forward to a brand new one opening up near my dad. Brand spanking new Super Sport, but it just isn't worth it anymore.
Yeah, so should we get into the bones of what gyms have to do to successfully open? And first, I think we should probably dispel the myth that it's dangerous to be in a gym right now. It can be if you don't follow the CDC guidelines, but we're talking about responsible gyms with responsible gym owners. You want to go over the stats or you want me to? Okay, so I want to give some credit to Chris Gaines from Performance Gains in Palo Alto. Stanford man, former rugby and Stanford football player. He pointed this study out to us, and there's one specific study here that really caught my eye. Look at the infection rate here. I'm just going to read it to you if you don't see it on the video feed we have here. It is 0.0023.
So
I didn't even explain it.
You need to back it up.
Yeah.
Like, as you can see, 2 steps over.
Yes. 49.4 million member check-ins have occurred during the time
in
of the
the
pandemic.
3 months.
Yeah.
In the 3 months.
Yeah.
In the most recent 3 months. There has been no evidence that the positive cases originated from the gym, and that infection rate is less than 1%.
Yes. Sorry. I got so excited with the number, I just jumped on it.
That also comes from close to 3,000 gyms across the United States, and no surprise, the people doing this study is one of our biggest health organizations. I can't even remember what it all stands for, but
it's a lot of abbreviation. It's IHRSA.
But it's basically it's an international group of gym owners, I believe. So they're our governing body, and to be quite honest, the reason why I like this particular group is even from the get-go, they had been working on a blueprint on how to open gyms. Unfortunately, like, I tried to push their information or I bring it up all the time if you ever ask me about opening up a gym. They actually already put in the time and the effort, and they had a blueprint, and I tried during a local city council meeting, like, we can open gyms, but their priority was whether or not they could have alcohol served on a
that's a whole different issue right there. But it's important because it is impacting whether or not gyms can open up. And what I've been saying all along, I shouldn't say all along, within the recent 2 months, I've come to the realization that based on the statistics and what pandemic experts and epidemiologists are telling all of us, is that this is a manageable pandemic. It's manageable. The biggest risk is really viral shedding indoors. We know this. I cough or something, or I sneeze, and there isn't good circulation in a building, then the virus literally just floats around in the air, and it can last there, I don't want to get into how long, but more than 5 minutes, let's put it that way. It could be several hours to a week, right?
I think it's also different by surface type.
Correct, and then sunlight affects it and everything. I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but long story short, what makes it so contagious is it literally floats around in the air. Now, if you're wearing a mask, your chances of getting it walking through that is very low. You don't have a mask on and you inhale, you're going to get it. The other thing is, sanitation. Is a big thing. Personal hygiene, washing your hands constantly, cleaning it, everything that you touch before and after. That's another factor in all this. And we know now, if you do all these things, you really shrink your chances of catching this virus. And I'm absolutely convinced of that because you and I have done a lot of shopping. There have been moments, unfortunately, where we have had to have been around, I'm not going to say large groups of people, we're smart not to do that, but there are just certain essential things you have to do, like shopping for food. And we've been in Safeways where they limit how many go in, but the problem is everyone ends up crowding in a few aisles.
Everybody's in the ice cream aisle.
Yeah, that's true.
And try to go get eggs.
Yeah, that is true. So, anyway, not that we eat a lot of ice cream. Anyway, so, correct. And we've been fortunate enough to not get sick through all of this. Now, I'm convinced that gyms can be open safely, and I just wanted to briefly, should I get into what I think is the right thing? Or do we got more statistics?
Yeah. Let's finish up this slide.
Yeah.
So this is an issue that has come up in our area. Is basically this 1 in 5 Americans experience mental health illness. I mean, I've heard so many stories around this, which is really sad. So it's important to try to get out there and just make sure everything's good. That you get sunlight, and that if you are down, hopefully that helps. I know I had trouble during that whole orange San Francisco Bay Area day. I realized how important sun was because that day was just a little too eerie for me.
Yeah, and it's true. Even before the pandemic, there were plenty of mental health issues in America, and that could be a whole separate podcast within itself. But and then there's the mystique people have of not wanting to get help with mental illness, and then there's the perception that to this day a lot of people have that's negative about mental health. I don't know why. To me, it's like having a bad injury or a knee injury or anything, a concussion. It's something you need to treat, and it's nothing to be ashamed of.
And it's also something that can be hard to identify too. So
yeah,
I know, for me, I never really thought about what was going on with my mom. And now that I look back, it makes a whole lot of sense, and especially with her getting Parkinson's down the road, it made a lot of sense what was going on in my household. So the other thing is 40% higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease and metabolic disease, which that has already been out there for quite some time, but now we're seeing it more and more. My clients kind of fall into this bucket, a lot of them do. So that's why we try to maintain their cardiovascular and strengthening regimen. And then the other thing here is it seems like there's still only about 23% of adults that are hitting their federal physical activity guidelines, according to the CDC. So that's where that information came from.
And what does all this mean? This really means one thing. You're higher risk for age-related disease, and you're higher risk for deconditioning, which they're hand in hand. 23% is a pathetically bad number, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Basically, to me, all this says is that gyms are essential. Working out is essential for health. So that's why, we've tried to maintain. I definitely have tried since day one. As soon as they told us we were on lockdown, I was all about getting together with whoever was willing to take me in. So, even if it's online, it might be new, it might be different. I tried to get my clients, I tried to show them from the very beginning how to use technology, and a lot of them were resistant. Unfortunately, now this is what we deal with, these statistics, with a lot of people.
Yeah, most definitely.
Now you can get into.
I'm sorry, I get really excited about things, and that's why I jumped on that number quickly and didn't even give you context to it. Okay, so I want to talk about my own personal experience with what Sangs refers to as box gyms. But I see them more than just a big box of equipment. There's a lot of people that you get to know in gyms because a lot of us have to train at certain times. And for myself, work a lot of hours. A normal work week for me, especially when things are pre-pandemic, I'm not getting to the gym until about 8:45 p.m. at night on most days. And as a result, you see other people there that are there during that time exercising. And those tend to be hardcore people because I'll tell you what, most people are crashing around 7, 8 o'clock at night. They're not working out. So only the dedicated you see at nighttime in a lot of these gyms. And you get to know people really well, and it's like a family to me. It's like another group of friends you have that you see almost all the time. In fact, sometimes I see some of these people more than I see a lot of my friends, right? Because it's very consistent. Okay, so pandemic hits. we're not able to work out. And then as the numbers go down, and I'll say we did really good in California, I would say, right up until Memorial Day. That's when the wheels started to fall off, but the numbers were really pretty low considering we have 40 million people in this state. I was impressed with how we were handling things as a whole. But here's the problem. Once we started opening up, people kind of lost their discipline, or there were quite a few that never bought in the first place. And the personal hygiene wasn't there, the mask wearing wasn't there, and we saw the numbers explode. And definitely hanging out in large groups was just the worst possible decision you could make. And just to throw some simple statistics around, at the end of May in San Joaquin County, where our house is in Tracy, there was less than 1,000 cases. I kid you not, there was 643. And then, of course, Memorial Day happens, we get a sudden surge, and now we're well over 1,000 cases. And then the absolute nail in the coffin, in my opinion, was around the 4th of July weekend. And Sing and I recall driving in our car in the vet, and we're on Grant Line Road, and we look over, and we see the Black Bear restaurant, and it's like every inch of that parking lot is jammed with people, and they're all inside the restaurant. And then we noticed the same thing with Texas Roadhouse, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what are we doing, people? What are we doing?
And there's studies now that basically link a lot of people getting COVID that at some point previous to being hospitalized were inside of a restaurant.
Yeah, so being indoors obviously isn't the best thing, especially when you eat, because you can't wear a mask and eat at the same time. It's one of those things. But there's ways to adapt. A lot of good restaurants, and we've been plenty, outdoors, under a canopy, where the air is constantly moving. You wear your mask until you get your food. You make sure you have hand sanitizer with you. The only downside is I don't know that there's a lot of bathroom availability at restaurants during this time. But you could arrange that. Just make sure that you use the restroom before you leave. And like I said, Sing and I haven't gotten sick, and we're very careful about if we decide to do something like that, if it looks safe for us. And the main thing that we're concerned about with dining outside is the space between us and other tables. And we've seen some very good examples of it in places we've eaten, right? Like the one in Mountain View that we really like a lot. I always forget the name of that one. State of Mind, yeah, State of Mind. Plenty of space. There was like at least 20 feet between tables. We felt great there. Then we made the mistake of eating at a place in Half Moon Bay. Not Half Moon Bay, I'm sorry, Pillar Point, which is Santa Cruz. And remember there was and part of it, I can't blame the restaurant. The idiot customers decided to push two tables together. And now you got 30 people at one table, and I'm just like, see, this is the thing we're not understanding here.
Yeah, so that was definitely a group of young people who were there to celebrate a birthday and actually refused to wear a mask. They brought the masks so that they could get into the restaurant, but honestly, they all had to run out to their cars and go get them. So clearly not a concern of theirs.
And they were awful close to us at that point, and we just decided to bounce at that point. Thank goodness we were done with our food. But the idea is you just can't do things like that. And I've seen a lot of that in parks. And the other disturbing thing too, that bars.
Yeah.
I don't understand bars, and believe me, my heart goes out to bartenders and people that work in these facilities. They need to make a living, and they should be compensated right now. No question about it. But you can't have bars open in a pandemic, because the whole point of bars is it's anti-social distancing. It's to meet people, right, and get close and get rid of your inhibitions. That's why you drink. It's just equals bad exposure. You know what I mean?
Well, even early on, we were, as soon as we went into shelter, of course, we spent a lot of time on social media, and one of the first things we found in your Twitter feed was, you asked me, do you know this bar in Houston?
It was a bar in
No,
Houston.
I do not.
Yeah.
I do not know every bar in Houston.
It was one of my tweets. You know what a tweet is? That's one of my Twitter peeps.
Right, sent that out.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, she said, oh no, this is in Houston, which is really sad because that is one of the reasons why I can't go visit
I just
my
about
dad.
died when I saw that. I'm like, oh, great. And I knew it. In a month, Houston was going to be overrun with COVID, and it was. No question about it. Okay, let's get back to gyms.
Yes.
So, I trained at 24 Hour Fitness when it opened, and first thing that annoyed me about it was you had 1 hour, you had to sign up for a time slot, and I thought, okay, no big deal. If it came to it, I could always sign up for 2 time slots.
Yep.
They allow you to do that.
Yep.
And then they clean in between, which is really good. Okay, the downside of all of this is when you come in there, they don't really provide you with a lot of cleaning supplies. And what would always worry me is I'd see somebody on a bench I want to use, and they'd get off of it, and they're not wiping anything down, they're not spraying disinfectant on it, and they're not giving me anything at the front desk to do that with. So at that point, I told the manager there, I said, you guys I appreciate you being open. I like how you clean in between, sessions, but you need to have bottles of disinfectant out for us because you had 4 bottles out there and there was probably 50 people at that particular time. So I wasn't happy with that. And I decided not to go back because I didn't feel comfortable. Now, I go to Powerhouse Gym. That's my other gym membership.
So just real quick,
Yes.
that is the difference between the big box gym and what Scott's about to go into is the boutique gym, which is basically we'll have a sole owner or maybe a mental partnership. I have worked for the big box gym, but on a different capacity, basically buying protein and
You're a buyer, yeah.
and food. But the person who sat right next to me was the membership person. So I understand the mentality behind these big corporate gyms. So it is very different from being in a smaller gym where the owner is somebody you've probably met and has limited hours.
Correct. Yeah. So anyway, that's a good point you brought up. It's a corporation, 24 Hour Fitness, and so it has all the benefits that a corporation has and all the shortfalls that a corporation has. And the biggest shortfall that big corporations have is they're insular. And what I mean by that is the headquarters, at least for the 24 Hour Fitness gyms in California, is in San Ramon. So San Ramon isn't in San Carlos. They don't know exactly everything that's going on there. And the managers in each one of these gyms, they don't have the autonomy to make a lot of these decisions. All these decisions come from San Ramon. And if San Ramon's people aren't in San Carlos or in Redwood City, they don't have a clear picture of what's going on. And we've seen this insular problem with a lot of big corporations, and 24 has that problem as well. So I go to Powerhouse Gym to work out there, and the first thing that was astonishing to me, I walk in, they take my temperature, which everyone's doing, got my mask on, and they push forward a bottle of Virex and a towel. And I thought, hallelujah. So even if that disgusting person that was on the bench that has poor hygiene, it just leaves everything the way it is, I don't care because I can spray it down myself, I can clean every inch of it and use it, and then repeat that process when I leave because I have good hygiene and I'm not going to leave the gym, I'm not going to leave the bench with my sweat and my viral shedding on it for the next person to clean. But what I love about Powerhouse is I have the opportunity to control my environment as far as the cleanliness of it, which I didn't feel I had at 24 Hour Fitness. I had to rely on the staff there and the members, they weren't cleaning anything. And I thought, this is the problem. We all need to play a role in managing this pandemic, and expecting members not to do anything is ridiculous. And I'm telling you, before I went into Powerhouse, I talked to them first and I said, do I need to bring my own cleaning supplies? And they're like, no. You mean I get a bottle of antiviral or antibacteria? Yeah. Disinfectant? And you get a towel. And I thought, wow, that's how you run a gym. Now, in addition to each member having this stuff, the workers at the gym had a hot steamer, and they would literally go around constantly through the day spraying hot steam on all the equipment. And I'm thinking, this is the cleanest place I could be. I felt 100% comfortable there. Definitely more comfortable at Powerhouse Gym than I felt at a grocery store.
Yeah. So in that, I will say from the other perspective, don't be surprised if your gym asks or basically increases their prices, because honestly, this whole Virex and all that, it's really expensive product.
Yeah.
So now to have that available, it's a huge cost for the gym. I know immediately when we were talking about it at the gym that I work at in Palo Alto, I knew that basically if I were to return to the gym, I would have to bring my own, because it gets super expensive, and I always wanted to make sure that I had my cleaning supplies, so there'd be no excuse for not having anything to clean, because if I brought my own, I should know how much is in there and whether or not I'd have enough to clean all the bells, all the mats that I used, and so forth. So that's one thing like we do is we carry our own cleaning products everywhere we go. I mean, I have a container of already basically sanitary wipes.
Oh, alcohol wipes,
Yeah, and we carry sanitizer with us everywhere. In our bags, not in our cars, because it breaks down in your car from the heat and the sun. So I always try to keep it with us. And that was one of the main things that we shopped for. As soon as we went into shelter, I mean, as much as Scott hated going shopping with me, that's pretty much what we were looking for, was a lot of
oh my God,
products.
shopping!
So like I said last week, things that Scott hates doing, the reason why he hates it is because I'm pretty diligent about making sure that we have a good supply, because it has been pretty sketchy out there of what's available.
And you don't just take the first product on the shelf. What you do is you take the product behind it. And that's where my height comes in and is an advantage, because I can reach those hard to get places.
That's because what's in front is touched by way too many people.
Correct. Okay, so I'm glad I got that off my chest. My whole point of this was not necessarily, well, look, I want Powerhouse to succeed.
We
Rob,
want
the
all
owner,
of our
we want all of our
gyms
gyms
to
to
succeed.
succeed. But I must admit, there's some people we like better than others, but we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But I got to give Rob credit, the owner of Powerhouse Gym. He really got ahead of this thing, and this is a guy, just keep in mind, he really made some smart changes, because prior to that, you could never get things like that in his gym. He used to take like Windex and water it down, and then that's how you clean stuff in his gym. He completely changed his tune. He had, disinfectants that I know weren't watered down, because my fingers were smelling a disinfectant all the time. It was the real deal. And he got ahead of this, and he was one of the few gyms, in my opinion, that I felt 100% safe in. So I want to give him respect on that.
Yeah, and on that note, being able to smell it on your hands, that's the one thing I love about the gym that I work at in Palo Alto. The first thing was that they supplied gloves for all of the trainers to clean, because that stuff does get absorbed into your system.
Yeah.
So definitely be careful about how much you're using and what you're using and how you're doing it. So I try to wear gloves every time I clean products. Sometimes it's not that easy, which is fine. And also checking your sanitizers to make sure that they don't have any chemicals that shouldn't really be in there.
Yeah, and this is the thing. We have to focus on what the most important thing is. And the most important thing right now is not creating an opportunity to have the virus find another host. That's your job as an American right now, to not be a host for this virus. And I'm telling you right now, if the virus runs out of hosts, it's going to burn out and go away. All of us are putting our hopes in a vaccine, but the real answer to this problem is to no longer provide a host for all the viruses that are out here. Just stop. Clean. Mask. Prevent the infection in the first place. If all of us prevent infections, then there's going to be no need for a vaccine, right? And those of you that are hesitant about trying, an Operation Warp Speed kind of development of a vaccine, I get what you're saying. So do the right thing and don't catch it in the first place. and don't provide a situation where other people are going to catch it and we're home free. It literally, if it has no one else to infect anymore, then it literally goes away. But it's hard to get everyone on board because this is America. You can't order people to do things. You can't threaten to shoot them or throw them in jail over this stuff, unlike other countries. So this is where we are. Stupid is, stupid does.
You're gonna go down that route.
I'm just saying. In China, when they tell you to do something, you got to do it.
We'll keep this short and brief. What I can say about this particular comment is we do lack a lot of leadership. So anything you can do to help all of us find that leadership, even better.
So, you're right saying we all have to be leaders in this. And the sooner we could prevent infections down to zero, the quicker our economy will rise up again. It's totally contingent on our behavior and nothing else at this point. All right. Yeah, I think we covered it. All right, anything else you want to add?
No.
All right, thank you everyone for tuning in here today. I'm sure a lot of you have comments. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear it, positive or negative. Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Ageless Movement, and also, yeah, like the video if you like it, okay? All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. Hopefully the air is cleaning up where you live. Still pretty dirty where we are.
It's okay.
All right, take care.